These are people that paved the way for us. These are people that had lived on this earth and know the system of how things work on this earth. These are people in whose lineage we come from. Without them, they cannot be us. And without us, they cannot be our children, nor the next generation. For one not to acknowledge one's ancestor is like cutting off your roots, cutting off the very essence of you. If you had not come through your parents, and if your parents had not birthed you or agreed to have children, you wouldn't exist. For the very fact that you came through this lineage, for the very fact that they were able to put in, to the best of their ability, what they could put in bringing you up as their children, or if you're out there, if you didn't meet your parents here on earth, because there are people here on earth whose parents died when they were babies. The best gift you can give to yourself is go back and find out about your lineage, about your parents, about your ancestors, in order for you to understand and the very nature of who you are and whose you are. You can call upon the Creator, but as you do that, you also need to understand who you are and what lineage you come from. So it's mind-blowing when you find a certain community not paying homage to their ancestors, especially in the African community. Hello everyone, welcome back to Breakage Barriers. My name is Blessing. You can also call me Lady B. What I do here is talk about culture as it pertains to Africa. Follow me on this. So what do you think other cultures do? You think they don't understand what they are doing when it comes to paying homage to their ancestors? Why do you think people take flowers to the graveyard? Why do you think some communities, like in the UK, I live in the UK, whereby ancestors are remembered, where you have days set aside for ancestors like St. Patrick's Day and so on? Why is it that these cultures, when they say that people die, why don't they forget it entirely? Because it pertains to their history. If you don't know your ancestors, you are not able to understand your history. If you don't know your ancestors and how they lived, you are not able to avoid unnecessary mistakes that they have made, that you can look upon and ascertain how to overcome it without repeating the process all over again. They have gone through the process so it can be easier for you, so it can be well with you. You can take the knowledge from their mistakes to be able to remedy yours and the next generations to come. So ancestors are very important. When people die, they just don't die and be forgotten, because they have contributed in one way or the other their own quarters, no matter how little or minute it is. They have contributed their own quarters here on earth and in your life. Some people have issues with their parents, understandably, but you came through them and somehow they did contribute, even if at this point you are not able to see the goodness from your parents. They have contributed some minute, no matter how minute it is, they have contributed something in your life. And when it comes to lineage, you are aligned to them. There's no how you mention yourself without referring to your parents, especially when it comes to the next generation. Some cultures even name things like cars, street names, road names, even businesses after their ancestors. For example, the Ford car and some certain street and road names that we have currently today in our society. All these acts are in homage to those ancestors, in appreciation of their contribution here on earth, in appreciation of what they have done to make life much easier for the living. So many Christians today, I would say the naive ones, especially in the Pentecostal churches, these Christians don't even pay homage to their ancestors. They call on other ancestors, paying homage to other ancestors, but their own very essence, the lineage that they belong to, the lineage that they come from, and the contributory efforts these ancestors of theirs have made is overlooked, unappreciated, never discussed, never mentioned, even to their own children, nor their communities. Yet, the Bible, which some Christians claim condemns ancestorship, the Bible is all about ancestor, from Genesis to Exodus to Isaiah, the book of Esther, Elijah, Elisha, David, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, to the disciples of Jesus, Apostle Paul and all the disciples, and Jesus Christ. All these people are all ancestors. Why? Because they were once here, but they are not here. So they have become ancestors. Another word for ancestors is saints. That's what Christianity uses. They don't call them ancestors, they call them saints. Ancestors are saints, or they have become saints because they have gone through this part of the world to the great beyond, and now, because of their positive contribution here on earth, will never be forgotten. These people I have named and much more have contributed in one way or the other some positives on this earth, and so the Bible record has not forgotten them. They are well mentioned, they are paid homage to. So what are you talking to me about? The Bible acknowledges ancestorship. If you're a Christian out there, you pay homage to all these biblical ancestors, but your own ancestor is never spoken of. The good contributive efforts of your ancestors up until your parents, your grandparents, your great-great-grandparents, and so on. All the sacrifice that they've done for you to be able to have the life that you have today. What about those? Why are they not being mentioned? Why are you not being appreciative of them? So now, because one has become a Christian, you cut yourself off of your own lineage, your own blood lineage. Your lineage is your bloodline. That's how important it is. You cut yourself off that lineage and engraft yourself to another ancestor. How possible is that? You can never, ever cut yourself off your bloodline. Your bloodline will forever remain your bloodline. The connection of bloodline, the blood connection, is essentially strong, unbroken, and extremely important. And the Bible confirms this because it's all there in the Bible. It's all blood, blood, blood. The Old Testament talked about blood, blood, blood up until Jesus. The bloodline is what connects you to your ancestor. Hey! The bloodline is what connects you to your ancestor. It cannot be broken. And you see some families, because of the contributive efforts of their ancestors, today they don't have to go through financial stress because their ancestors have already secured that for the present generation, and in some cases some generations to come. That's the work of the ancestor. That happens in communities as well. And going back to Africa, our Africans today are complaining of how hard it is. The current living ancestors that we are, those in leadership in Africa, most of them are not doing as much. But if you look further down in history, during colonization, African ancestors who stood up against the colonizers, who fought against the colonizers, who made sure the land that was taken away from the African people was given back to Africa. Today, all African countries are independent. Why? Do you think the colonizers made you free because you asked for it? No. Africa is technically free from colonization because the African ancestors fought for that continent to be free. But when you look at the African education, most of its education system does not even recollect nor teach to the present generation what the ancestors did for them. The African ancestors liberated Africans from enslavement. The African ancestors fought to get the African continent back in the hands of those who it originally belongs to, which is Africans. The African ancestors fought to be able to govern themselves without any outside interference. The African ancestors created and recreated new ways of system of living because their original culture was taken away from them. The African ancestors liberated Africa to what it is currently today. Africa, do you know what some of your current problems are? One of the top ones is neglect in veneration of your ancestors. You do not venerate your ancestors, yet you complain of your current leadership that they are not leading you correctly. Really? The question is, your past ancestors before the current one, what homage have you given to them? Do you remember their sacrifices? Do you remember all the lives that was lost during the enslavement, during colonization? Do you teach them to your current children today? You don't. So why do you think the current Africans in leadership will want to follow the same path of sacrificing their own life in leadership when they know you won't even remember them 10 years down the lane, or 20 years down the lane, or 50 years down the lane? They will be forgotten. So they will rather do what they can for their personal pockets, for themselves. Not that I'm condoning bad leadership, not at all. But I'm saying this is part of the root cause of the present predicament Africa is going through. Not recognizing, acknowledging, venerating, appreciating the contributive efforts of your ancestors. It's about time we start appreciating our ancestors, appreciating ourselves, one another, of the efforts we put in to make our community, our children, better and better than us. Then we start seeing changes in the way we treat one another. Because the thing is, most Africans have been taught by other religions that they don't need to venerate their ancestors. But these other religions do venerate their own ancestors, if you take a closer look. So why is it evil for an African or Africans to venerate their own ancestors, but it's not evil for other cultures to venerate their own ancestors? You see how gullible Africans are. Ancestral veneration is different from worship. We need to understand that veneration is paying homage, reverence to saints, people who have lived on this earth and contributed positively in the society or community that they lived and have gone to the great beyond. It's paying reverence to them for what they have done. And that is very spiritual, because you're laying an example for people who are still alive here on earth. When they go in the path of positivity, when they go in the path of goodness, doing good in the society or community that they live and in the life of others, they will be remembered. So that way, people are encouraged to do good. People are encouraged to do positive things in the society that they live in and in the life of others, because they know very well that they will not be forgotten, and the act of goodness will not be forgotten even after they leave this earth. It's a spiritual method of encouraging one another to be good. You don't need to invite one Holy Spirit to come make you good. All you need to do is systematically set such platform of appreciating one another by being good to one another and participating positively in the community or society you live in, knowing fully well that your efforts will never go unappreciated. This is how the ancient African spirituality functioned before colonization. We need to bring this system back into the African society, into the African continent as a whole. Because what we have going on currently in Africa as it pertains to government and leadership is unacceptable, completely unacceptable, because we see a pattern of colonization as well in some of these leaderships. Our ancestors gave their life during the war. I will tell you now the difference between veneration and worship. Veneration is when you pay deep respect and homage to the saints. The saints are those who have lived here on earth and passed on, while worship is also deep respect, not to the saints, but to God, gods or goddesses. But this topic about God is something I'll be talking about on another video, because we need to get our definition clear. There is God and there is the Creator. So these are the differences between veneration and worship. We do not worship ancestors, we venerate ancestors. During enslavement, some of those who were taken on ship gave their life to be thrown aboard the ship so that their next generation would live to see tomorrow. So why wouldn't we as Africans start appreciating what our ancestors have done for us? It's about time we come into this awareness and start practicing it. Our ancestors have done us well. They need veneration. They are crying out for veneration. Until we start doing that, then we start seeing positive change in leadership, especially in the African continent. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care now. Bye.